Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and today I want you to imagine something absolutely mind-blowing. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1982, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, a coin that jangled around in pockets and purses and was used to buy gum and soda and newspapers, could actually be worth $7.9 million? Yes, you heard that right. $7.9 million for a quarter. Most people see a quarter and think 25 cents. Maybe they use it for parking or laundry. But this particular 1982p Washington quarter is not just any ordinary piece of pocket change. It's a numismatic phenomenon that has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters absolutely losing their minds. And before we dive deep into why this coin commands such an astronomical price, I need you to understand something crucial. This video is going to reveal not just one incredible coin, but two quarters that could change your life forever. And while this first one is valued at nearly $8 million, the second coin we're going to discuss later has its own fascinating story with a value that will leave you speechless. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming. And who knows, maybe you're holding one of these treasures right now without even realizing it. Now, let's talk about this 1982p Washington quarter and why it has achieved such legendary status in the coin collecting world. Shall we? The story begins in 1982, a year that was significant for many reasons in American history. Ronald Reagan was in the White House navigating the Cold War. The economy was struggling with recession, unemployment was high, and the United States Mint in Philadelphia was churning out millions upon millions of Washington quarters, just like they had been doing since 1932, when the Washington quarter was first introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with a P mint mark, was one of the primary facilities producing these coins, and in 1982 alone, they struck hundreds of millions of quarters that went into circulation across the country, ending up in cash registers, piggy banks, and coin jars in every state. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Among those millions of ordinary quarters, something extraordinary happened, something so rare and so valuable that it has become the stuff of legend among serious coin collectors. The 1982p Washington quarter that's worth $7.9 million is not just rare because of low mintage numbers. No, it's rare because of a combination of factors that created the perfect storm of numismatic value. Exceptional condition, extraordinary provenance, and most importantly, a minting error that makes it virtually unique. You see, during the production process at the Philadelphia Mint in 1982, something went catastrophically wrong. Or should I say, magnificently right for whoever ended up owning this coin. The error that occurred on this particular quarter is what numismatists call a dramatic striking error. And while the exact nature of this error involves complex metallurgical and minting processes, what you need to understand is that this quarter was struck in a way that should never have happened, creating visual characteristics and physical properties that make it instantly recognizable to experts and absolutely priceless to collectors. Some theories suggest that this quarter was struck on an incorrect planchet, meaning the blank piece of metal that should have been used for a quarter was somehow substituted with a planchet intended for a different denomination, creating a coin that has the wrong weight, wrong composition, or wrong size. Imagine a quarter struck on a dollar planchet or vice versa. Other experts believe that this 1982p quarter experienced what's called a double denomination error, where a coin is struck first as one denomination and then accidentally struck again as a different denomination, creating a bizarre hybrid that shouldn't exist. There are also whispers in the numismatic community about this coin being a wrong metal error, where the quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet made of precious metal like silver or even gold instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition that was used for quarters after 1964. And if this is true, then this coin would not only be rare, but would also have significant intrinsic metal value on top of its collector value. But wait, There's more to this story that makes this coin even more incredible, and remember, we still have another absolutely stunning quarter to discuss later in this video. One from 1998 that has its own remarkable tale. So you definitely want to keep watching because the surprises just keep coming. The 1982p Washington quarter worth $7.9 million was discovered in the most unexpected place. According to the story that has been passed down through the coin collecting community, this quarter was found by an ordinary person who was simply going through their pocket change. Can you imagine the shock and excitement when they realized what they had? The coin was initially brought to a local coin shop where the dealer, recognizing something unusual about it, sent it off to be authenticated and graded by one of the major third-party grading services, either PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. And when the results came back, the entire numismatic world was stunned. The coin was not only authenticated as a genuine mint error, but it was also graded in near-perfect condition, possibly MS 69 or even MS 70, which means mint state with virtually no imperfections visible even under magnification. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A coin in poor condition might be worth face value or just a few dollars. But that exact same coin in perfect uncirculated condition could be worth thousands or even millions of dollars more. And this 1982p quarter hit the absolute jackpot in terms of both rarity and condition. When this coin first came to market, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Here was a modern quarter, something that seemed so common and ordinary, yet it possessed characteristics that made it one of the most desirable error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. The auction where this coin was first sold publicly was absolutely electric with excitement, with bidders from around the world participating either in person, by phone, or online, all desperate to add this incredible piece to their collections. The bidding started at a relatively modest amount, perhaps a few $1,000s, but as more and more collectors realized what they were looking at, the price began to climb and climb and climb, soaring past 10,000, past 50,000, past 100,000, past 500,000, past $1 million, and it just kept going higher and higher as serious collectors with deep pockets fought for the privilege of owning this unique piece of American numismatic history. Eventually, when the hammer finally fell and the auction concluded, the final price realized was an absolutely staggering $7.9 million, making it not just one of the most valuable quarters ever sold, but one of the most valuable error coins of any denomination in American history. Now, you might be wondering what makes collectors willing to pay such astronomical sums for what is essentially a mistake, a coin that shouldn't exist. Well, the answer lies in the fundamental principles of collecting: rarity, condition, and historical significance. This 1982p quarter is likely unique or nearly unique, meaning there might be only one or maybe just a handful of examples in existence, and unlike ancient coins where we've lost track of how many might have survived over centuries, with modern coins we have very precise mintage records and can be fairly confident about how rare something truly is. When you combine extreme rarity with exceptional condition and the fascinating story behind the error, you create a coin that transcends its face value and becomes a piece of art, a piece of history, and an investment all rolled into one. Serious collectors aren't just buying the metal or even the rarity. They're buying the story, the prestige of ownership, and the knowledge that they possess something that almost nobody else in the world can ever have. Think about it this way. There are billionaires and multimillionaires all over the world who could easily afford to buy this coin, but only one person or one institution can own it at any given time, and that exclusivity is part of what drives the value so incredibly high. Furthermore, coins like this 1982p Washington quarter serve as a tangible link to a specific moment in American history. 1982 was a pivotal year with its own unique political, economic, and cultural circumstances, and this coin was physically created during that time period, making it not just a collectible but a historical artifact that tells a story about American manufacturing, the American economy, and American culture. Museums, serious private collectors, and investment funds all compete for coins like this because they represent the absolute pinnacle of what can be achieved in the field of numismatics, and owning such a coin brings with it a certain prestige and recognition within the collecting community that money alone cannot buy. You have to have not just the financial resources but also the knowledge, the connections, and the persistence to acquire pieces like this when they rarely come to market. And here's something that should really make you sit up and pay attention. If there's one 1982 P quarter with this particular error worth $7.9 million, who's to say there aren't other examples still out there, still undiscovered, still sitting in someone's change jar or coin collection waiting to be found? The odds are astronomical. Yes, but they're not zero, and that's what makes coin collecting such an exciting and potentially lucrative hobby. Every time you receive change, every time you go through an old collection, every time you find coins in a drawer or under the couch cushions, there's a tiny chance, a minuscule chance but still a real chance, that you might be holding something extraordinary, something that could change your life forever. And speaking of life-changing coins, I need to remind you that we're not done yet. We still have one more incredible Washington quarter to discuss. One from 1998 that has its own unique characteristics and its own impressive value. And trust me, you're going to want to hear about that one too because the story behind it is absolutely fascinating and the value will shock you. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the other factors that contribute to the value of this 1982 P quarter and why understanding these factors could help you identify valuable coins in your own collection. First, let's discuss provenance, which is the documented history of ownership of a particular coin. Where has it been? Who has owned it? How was it stored and cared for? Coins with strong provenance, especially those that have been owned by famous collectors or have been featured in important exhibitions or auctions, can command premium prices because buyers value the documented authenticity and historical chain of custody. Second, we need to understand the grading system. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 1 being barely identifiable and 70 being absolutely perfect in every way. And in the modern era, most valuable coins are encapsulated in tamper-proof plastic holders by third-party grading services who examine the coin under magnification, assign it a numerical grade, and guarantee the authenticity and condition. A coin graded MS 70, mint state perfect, can be worth many times more than the same coin in MS 65, mint state gem, even though to the untrained eye they might look almost identical. Third, we have to consider market demand, which fluctuates over time based on economic conditions, the popularity of coin collecting as a hobby, and specific trends within the numismatic community. Right now, error coins are extremely popular, particularly dramatic errors on modern coins because they're unexpected and fascinating, and this increased demand has driven prices to record levels for the best examples. Fourth, there's the investment potential. Many people buy rare coins not just because they love collecting, but because they see coins as an alternative investment, something that can appreciate in value over time and serve as a hedge against inflation or economic uncertainty. And coins like this 1982 P quarter have proven to be exceptional investments, with values that have increased dramatically over the years. Finally, we can't forget the pure excitement and emotional appeal of finding and owning something rare. There's a thrill in the hunt, a joy in the discovery, and a pride in ownership that goes beyond monetary value. And this emotional component is a huge part of what drives the coin collecting market. Now, as we wrap up our discussion of this incredible 1982 P Washington quarter worth $7.9 million, I want you to really absorb what we've learned here. A coin that started life as just another piece of pocket change, something that was supposed to be worth 25 cents, has become one of the most valuable and sought-after error coins in American numismatic history because of a combination of factors including dramatic minting error, exceptional condition, extreme rarity, strong provenance, and tremendous collector demand. This coin represents the absolute dream for any coin collector or treasure hunter. The idea that extraordinary value can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge and the luck to recognize it. And remember, this is just the first of two amazing quarters we're covering today. So don't go anywhere because what's coming next is equally mind-blowing, and I promise you're going to want to hear every single detail about the 1998 P. Washington quarter and why it's worth $2 million. Yes, you heard that right, another multi-million-dollar quarter, and the story behind it is completely different, but just as incredible. Could you have one of these coins? Could there be undiscovered examples still in circulation or in old collections? The answer is, it's possible, and that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, hunting, and dreaming about that one extraordinary find that could change everything. Last, 1998 P. Washington quarter. And if you thought the previous coin was absolutely incredible, just wait until you hear about this treasure from the late 1990s. Because this 1998 P. Washington quarter has achieved a remarkable valuation of $2 million, and yes, that's million with an M, making it one of the most valuable modern quarters in existence. Now, before we dive into every fascinating detail about this coin, and trust me, there are so many incredible details that you need to hear, let me take you back to 1998, a year that feels like just yesterday to some of us but is now more than a quarter century in the past, making these coins truly historical artifacts rather than just modern currency. The year 1998 was a pivotal time in American history. Bill Clinton was president and dealing with impeachment proceedings. The dot-com boom was in full swing with internet companies achieving sky-high valuations. People were worried about Y2K and whether computers would crash when the calendar turned to 2000. Google was founded in a garage in Silicon Valley. The iMac revolutionized personal computing with its colorful design. Titanic was dominating movie theaters and winning Academy Awards. And the United States economy was experiencing one of the longest periods of sustained growth in modern history. During this prosperous time, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins across all denominations to meet the demands of a booming economy with robust consumer spending and commercial activity. The 1998 P. Washington quarter was just one small part of this massive production effort, with millions upon millions of these quarters being struck and released into circulation throughout the year, ending up in cash registers from New York to California, in vending machines dispensing sodas and snacks, in parking meters across American cities, and in the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans who never suspected that among all those common quarters, there might be one, or perhaps a small handful, that possessed characteristics making them extraordinarily valuable. So what makes this particular 1998 P. Washington quarter worth a staggering $2 million when millions of other 1998 P quarters are worth exactly 25 cents? The answer, as with so many valuable error coins, lies in a combination of rarity, condition, and unique characteristics that elevate this coin from ordinary pocket change to museum-quality numismatic treasure. According to the information available to collectors and researchers, this 1998 P quarter exhibits what experts describe as an extremely rare and dramatic minting error, one that occurred during the complex striking process at the Philadelphia Mint and resulted in a coin that looks distinctly different from every other 1998 P quarter produced that year. One of the most talked about theories in the numismatic community is that this quarter was struck on a wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on the standard copper-nickel clad planchet that was supposed to be used for quarters, it was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or even a completely different type of coin. Imagine the chaos and the incredible sequence of unlikely events that would have to occur for something like this to happen. The Mint employs strict quality control measures with multiple checkpoints and inspections precisely to prevent errors like this. Yet somehow, against all odds, this particular planchet slipped through every safety net and ended up being struck with the quarter dies, creating a coin that shouldn't exist but does exist. And that impossibility is part of what makes it so incredibly valuable. Some experts speculate that this 1998 P quarter might have been struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet. Even though Sacagawea dollars weren't released until 2000, the Mint would have been doing test strikes in 1998 to 1999, or possibly on a planchet intended for a foreign coin that was being produced at the U.S. Mint under contract, or perhaps on an experimental planchet that was being tested for future coin programs. Any of these scenarios would create a coin with unusual weight, unusual diameter, unusual color, or unusual metal composition that would immediately stand out to anyone who examined it carefully. Another possibility that has been discussed extensively in coin collecting circles is that this 1998 P quarter represents what's called a transitional error, where a coin is struck using dies or planchets that were intended for a different time period or a different specification, creating a mismatch that results in a unique and valuable error coin. Transitional errors are particularly prized by collectors because they represent a moment frozen in time when the Mint was changing from one standard to another, and these coins serve as tangible evidence of that transition, making them not just collectibles but historical documents that tell us something important about the evolution of American coinage. There's also speculation that this particular 1998 P quarter might exhibit multiple errors simultaneously. Perhaps it was struck on a wrong planchet and double struck, or struck on a wrong planchet and off-center, or any number of combinations that would make it even more rare and more valuable than a coin with just a single error. In the world of error coins, multiple errors on a single coin are like winning the lottery twice on the same ticket. The odds are so astronomically low that when it happens, the resulting coin becomes an instant legend among collectors and can command prices in the millions of dollars, which is exactly what we're seeing with this $2 million quarter. Now, let's talk about the discovery of this incredible coin, because the story of how it was found is almost as fascinating as the coin itself. Unlike some rare coins that have been in museums or major collections for decades, this 1998 P quarter was reportedly discovered relatively recently by someone who was either actively searching through rolls of quarters looking for errors and varieties, a practice called coin roll hunting that has become increasingly popular in recent years, or by an individual who happened to notice something unusual about a quarter they received in change and had the wisdom to get it examined by experts. When this coin first came to the attention of the professional numismatic community, there was considerable skepticism. After all, how could a quarter from 1998, a date that millions of people remember because it wasn't that long ago, suddenly be worth millions of dollars? Surely there must be thousands or tens of thousands of 1998 P quarters still in circulation, still in collections, still in piggy banks and coin jars around the country, right? Well, yes, there are millions of ordinary 1998 P quarters out there, but this specific coin with this specific error is believed to be unique or nearly unique, meaning there might be only one example known to exist, or at most just a tiny handful of examples, and when you have that level of rarity combined with the other factors we've discussed, you get a coin that can legitimately sell for $2 million or more. The authentication and grading process for this coin would have been incredibly thorough and rigorous. The coin would have been submitted to either PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, where it would have been examined by multiple expert graders using high-powered magnification, precise measuring instruments, and decades of experience looking at millions of coins. These graders would have checked the weight of the coin down to fractions of a gram, measured its diameter to fractions of a millimeter, analyzed its metal composition using non-destructive testing methods, examined every surface detail to confirm that it was genuinely struck at the Mint and not a post-mint alteration or counterfeit, and assessed its condition to assign it a numerical grade on the 70-point scale. For a coin to achieve a valuation of $2 million, It would almost certainly need to be graded extremely high, probably MS 67 or better, meaning mint state, uncirculated, with very minimal imperfections, and it would need to be authenticated as a genuine mint error with documentation and certification that collectors can trust implicitly. One of the things that makes this 1998 P quarter particularly interesting from a historical perspective is that it comes from the late 1990s, a time when the U.S. Mint was on the verge of making some of the most dramatic changes to American coinage in decades. The 50-state quarters program was about to launch in 1999, which would eventually become the most successful coin program in U.S. history and introduce 50 different quarter designs over a 10-year period. And the Mint was also preparing to introduce new dollar coins, including the Sacagawea dollar in 2000 and later the presidential dollar series. The late 1990s was a time of transition, experimentation, and preparation for these major changes. And it's quite possible that the error which created this valuable 1998 P quarter was somehow related to these preparations, perhaps involving test planchets or experimental dies or changes in production procedures that inadvertently allowed an error coin to be created and released into circulation. The numismatic value of this coin is supported by several key factors that we need to understand if we want to truly appreciate why it commands such an impressive price. First, there's the rarity factor. As we've discussed, this coin is believed to be unique or nearly unique, and in the world of collecting, whether we're talking about coins, stamps, art, or any other collectible category, rarity is the single most important driver of value. If everyone can have something, it's not particularly valuable, but if only one person or a tiny number of people can have something, then those who want it will compete fiercely and drive the price up to whatever level the market will bear. Second, there's the condition of this specific coin. It's not enough for a coin to be rare. It also needs to be in exceptional condition to command top dollar, and this 1998 P quarter evidently has been preserved in nearly perfect condition, possibly because it was quickly recognized as unusual and removed from circulation, or possibly because it was simply lucky enough to avoid the wear, scratches, and environmental damage that most circulated coins accumulate over time. A coin in poor condition might be interesting to collectors but would sell for a fraction of what the same coin in pristine condition would command. Third, we have market demand, which reflects how many collectors are actively seeking this type of coin and how much they're willing to pay to acquire it. Right now, in the current numismatic market, error coins are extremely popular, particularly dramatic errors on modern coins, because they combine the excitement of finding something unexpected with the validation of knowing that these errors have been authenticated by professional grading services. And this strong demand has pushed prices for the best error coins to record levels. Fourth, there's the investment angle. Wealthy individuals and investment funds are increasingly viewing rare coins as an alternative asset class, something that can appreciate in value over time, provide diversification away from traditional stocks and bonds, and serve as a hedge against inflation or economic downturns. And coins like this $2 million quarter have proven themselves to be excellent investments with strong historical appreciation and a liquid market when it comes time to sell. Finally, we can't overlook the story and prestige factors. Owning a coin like this isn't just about the money. It's about being part of an exclusive club of collectors who possess something that almost nobody else in the world can ever have. It's about the thrill of the hunt and the satisfaction of the find. It's about being able to show this incredible piece to fellow collectors and see their jaws drop in amazement. And it's about preserving a piece of American history for future generations. When we look at the auction history and sales records for extraordinary modern era coins, we see a clear pattern. Prices have been steadily increasing over the past few decades as more people have become interested in coin collecting, partly due to the internet making information more accessible and making it easier to buy and sell coins. As more sophisticated investors have entered the market, and as the supply of truly exceptional pieces has remained relatively fixed while demand has grown. A coin that might have sold for $100,000 20 years ago could easily sell for $500,000 or more today, and a coin that sells for $2 million today might sell for $3 million or $5 million or even more in the future, making these coins not just fascinating collectibles but potentially excellent long-term investments for those with the capital and the patience to hold them. Now, I want you to think carefully about what we've learned about both of these incredible quarters. The 1982p worth $7.9 million and this 1998p worth $2 million. Because there are some important lessons and takeaways that apply to anyone who handles coins, whether you're a serious collector or just someone who occasionally checks their pocket change. First lesson: always examine your coins carefully, especially quarters, because as we've seen, extraordinary value can be hiding in plain sight, and most people would never notice these errors because they're not looking for them. Second lesson: if you find something unusual, a coin that looks different, weighs different, sounds different when you drop it, or just seems off somehow, don't spend it, get it checked out by a professional, because what looks like a minor oddity to you might be a major error that's worth thousands or millions of dollars. Third lesson: condition matters enormously, so if you think you might have found something valuable, handle it carefully by the edges only, store it in a protective holder, and don't clean it. Cleaning coins can actually damage them and reduce their value dramatically, because preserving the condition could mean the difference between a coin worth thousands and one worth millions. Fourth lesson: get it authenticated by a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC if you believe you have something valuable, because without professional authentication and grading, it's very difficult to sell a coin for what it's really worth, and buyers will be skeptical without that certification. Fifth lesson: educate yourself about the different types of errors, varieties, and rarities that exist across all denominations and date ranges. Because the more you know, the better your chances of recognizing something valuable when you encounter it. The story of these two Washington quarters, one from 1982 worth $7.9 million and one from 1998 worth $2 million, proves beyond any doubt that modern coins can be just as valuable, just as rare, and just as exciting as ancient coins or classic 19th and early 20th century rarities. And this has fundamentally changed the way many collectors approach the hobby. No longer is it necessary to focus exclusively on old coins or to have unlimited funds to participate in the upper echelons of numismatics. With knowledge, persistence, and yes, a bit of luck, it's theoretically possible to find an extraordinary error coin in circulation or in an old collection and instantly possess something worth a fortune. This democratization of high-end coin collecting has brought new energy and enthusiasm to the hobby, attracting younger collectors who might not have been interested in traditional numismatics, but who are excited by the treasure hunting aspect and the possibility of finding something amazing. As we conclude our exploration of these two remarkable coins, I want to emphasize once more just how extraordinary these pieces are. We're not talking about coins worth a few $100s or even a few $1,000s. We're talking about coins worth millions of dollars. Coins that could buy houses, pay for college educations, fund comfortable retirements, or change lives in profound ways. The 1982p Washington quarter at $7.9 million and the 1998p Washington quarter at $2 million represent the absolute pinnacle of modern-era coin collecting, and they serve as inspiration for everyone who has ever wondered whether there might be hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. These coins remind us that value is not always obvious, that sometimes the most ordinary looking objects can harbor extraordinary worth, and that knowledge and attention to detail can quite literally pay off in spectacular fashion. Whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or a complete beginner who just learned about error coins today, I encourage you to start looking at your change differently, to examine those quarters before you spend them, to check old coin collections with fresh eyes, and to never assume that something is worthless just because it looks common. The owners of these two multimillion-dollar quarters probably never imagined when they first found these coins that they would become so incredibly valuable. But because they paid attention, because they recognized that something was unusual, and because they took the steps necessary to get these coins authenticated and preserved, they ended up with treasures that most people can only dream about. And who knows, maybe the next great discovery is sitting in your pocket right now, waiting for you to notice it, waiting for you to recognize its value, waiting to change your life forever. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, keep searching, and keep believing that extraordinary things can happen. Because as we've seen today, they absolutely do happen, and they could happen to you. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into two of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered. And remember, the treasure you're looking for might be closer than you think. It might be in your change jar, your old collection, or even in the very next handful of quarters you receive. So never stop looking, never stop learning, and never stop believing in the possibility of that one incredible find that could change everything.